which is unacceptable. Let's say it. Hello everybody, this is Rael. Here is the movie-related video for this month, and it's a topic very dear to me, which is Hercule Poirot, the greatest detective of all time. David Suchet's Poirot is, in my humble opinion, the one, the only Poirot. This is why when I heard about Kenneth Branagh's series of movies, I was a little bit skeptical at first, even without watching any trailers or anything. It took me years to watch one of Kenneth Branagh's movies. I think I started with Haunting in Venice, just because I used to live in Venice. I love Venice, and everything with Venice attracts me. And so I decided to give it a go without knowing what to expect. But I had no doubt that it would just be a pale and heartless interpretation compared to David Suchet, because David Suchet is just superior. He is superb. So there was no chance for him, for Kenneth Branagh in my eyes, but still, I gave it a go. And the movie was, I don't have words to define it. It was disappointing. Then I thought, let's give it another chance. And I had already tried to start watching Murder on the Orient Express, and I had to stop after, I think, 2 scenes, maybe. Probably as soon as Kenneth Branagh showed up, I was already disappointed by his interpretation, how he portrayed Poirot. He basically has nothing in common with Poirot. I really don't get it, how much he could get the character wrong. So, okay, I stopped watching. Then, after I think years, so this year, I said, okay, let's give it a go. After watching A Haunting in Venice, there was this scene in which he's having breakfast, and so he's comparing the height of the eggs, which is something that is also portrayed in David Suchet's Poirot. There's at least in one movie or episode.
I cannot eat these eggs. They are of totally different sizes.
And when you compare the 2 scenes, you really can tell that they have nothing in common. So with David Suchet, it's just a quick check. So literally you can see David Suchet just having these 2 eggs. He just points out the height, that's it. And he's happy. Probably he smiles and that's it. Whereas with Kenneth Branagh, it was like a whole scene in which there was this servant running around and trying to bring him the right size and height of egg, and then he was unhappy and he would have to go back and all of that. But it was such a silly and obnoxious representation of Poirot. So he really was unbearable. And there was no reason for that. Like, it was basically the introduction of the character in that movie. I mean, why? I get it that Kenneth Branagh's movies are just 3 movies for now, and so compared to Poirot by David Suchet, we had more time to get acquainted with the character, with both a TV series and several movies. But still, even from the very start of the whole series and from the very first movie with David Suchet, it's clear who he is. From the very first scenes, you can tell that Poirot, portrayed by David Suchet, is elegance. He has all of these fine gestures. He's delicate. To me, watching Poirot by David Suchet is just like a sublime experience. Yes, you can tell it's a peculiar character, But still, it's not at all stereotypical, whereas Kenneth Branagh is simply ridiculous and insolent. The first things that I thought when I watched him, and I had to stop watching those movies, and it took me really several attempts, and I think I never finished Death on the Nile by Kenneth Branagh because it was really obnoxious. But the first things that I thought were, this is grotesque and it's insulting, because we already have this perfect character. We have perfection with David Suchet. We reached the top. There's nothing better that can be done. And yes, I am biased. It's basically my favorite show of all time, along with a couple more like Star Trek The Next Generation, Endeavour, and House MD. Okay, I'm biased, but there's a reason why I'm biased. So it was basically love at first sight. As soon as I saw David Suchet on the screen, I was captivated. I couldn't stop watching, and watching one episode after the other, you really appreciate the character. You know what to expect. David Suchet gives a well-defined personality to the character, as written by Agatha Christie. He really embodies Poirot, who is the most iconic detective of all time. So much so that I think the New York Times wrote about his death, and it was the one and only fictional character for which this type of article was written. I would say probably the only positive aspect of Kenneth Branagh's movies is that being made in the 2020s, the technology is different, of course the colors are crisp, and the overall aesthetic could have been improved compared to something filmed in the 90s. Poirot by Branagh is more focused on the quirks of the character and how silly he is. You really forget that he is the most clever man. It's truly disappointing because Kenneth Branagh completely missed the point of having this clever character who also has his quirks and his peculiar way of behaving and attention to detail and all of that. So he may be peculiar as a human being, but he still is the most intelligent man, and he reads people more accurately than anybody else. And so basically, after watching Kenneth Branagh's movie, you are left thinking that Poirot is a pathetic character, which is unacceptable. Let's say it. And it's certainly overly dramatic for some reason. I mean, there was no need for that, because it was clear already by David Suchet's portrayal which are the peculiarities of Poirot. And yes, he loves a little bit of drama, especially the theatrical way of ending the episodes, and so to have all the characters from that episode or that movie around him and to show off and everything. Okay, that's part of the character, but it's so much more delicate and fine and subtle in a way when it's done by David Suchet. Like, it's not even comparable, actually. Christie's Poirot has some subtlety, intelligence, and this finesse that is typical of the character. They really make the character. Now, let's shift our focus to the golden standard of Poirot portrayals, David Suchet. He is the embodiment of delicacy, cleverness, and coherence. What really sets Suchet apart is his meticulous attention to detail, which goes like from the perfectly groomed moustache to the precise Belgian accent. He really has a commitment to authenticity, which is commendable. It is a stark contrast to Branagh's portrayal, which often prioritizes spectacle over authenticity. I find myself reaching for Poirot by David Suchet, obviously, over and over again, so much so that I really know most episodes by heart. I usually remember who is the culprit, but since there are so many characters in every single episode, I tend to forget like the names, but I remember the faces, and so I still enjoy rewatching them despite being mysteries, precisely because of the character. So the character of Poirot, and also Captain Hastings, Miss Lemon, Chief Inspector Japp, they really make the whole thing along with Poirot. And it's funny to see them interact. And even when there were some famous actors taking part in one of the episodes, I remember that Poirot as a character was so well designed that you wouldn't be distracted by the famous actor of that specific episode coming on. Whereas for instance, in Murder on the Orient Express, like, you cannot stop thinking about who these actors are because, well, first, the movie sucks, so there's that. And second, how can you possibly have even one actor shine when you have so many popular, so many famous actors at once? It's suffocating. Besides, Murder on the Orient Express is my least favorite Poirot movie in general. For some reason, I don't know why everybody loves it. I know it made the history of the genre, it really changed the genre, but I still don't like it. Perhaps because, again, having watched David Suchet's interpretation first, I could really sense his discomfort and how difficult it was for him to let go and to have this personal fight and this tough decision to make. The interpretation was incredible, so much so that it's a suffering. Like, for me, it's difficult to watch. And so, first, I don't really enjoy the plot, and second, I cannot watch Poirot suffer because I care too much for him. And this is how a character should be, actually, especially coming from Agatha Christie's books, which have been written so well that, I mean, how can you possibly get it wrong, so wrong as Kenneth Branagh did? I know that Haunting in Venice is very vaguely inspired by one of the novels, and it deviates even more from the characters and from the plot. And it attempted some horror. It's something that it was never done in David Suchet's Poirot. And I hate horror personally, so I have no reason to enjoy it more because of that kind of switch. And also, Death on the Nile, it's not really my favorite either, so maybe I have so many reasons to despise this Kenneth Branagh series of movies. But also, I really find it so offensive that, like, why do you have to make these movies, like, to remake Poirot, since we already have the perfect Poirot? I really cannot get it. Like, why can't they do something new? I mean, this is part of a whole ongoing issue in the film industry, and we all saw it. But I took it personally because I adore Poirot, made by David Suchet. And all the times that David Suchet said something like "the little grey cells," or all of these phrases that are typical of the character, but still they don't make it look ridiculous, because it's consistent as well. And I love the portrayal of British people, like even in the countryside, and to hear all of their accents and how they behave.
Who's he? He's not English, is he? I'm begging your pardon.
When this foreigner comes in.
Private detective.
Madame.
Oh, yeah, well, they all say that, don't they?
So there are all of these silly situations in which, like, someone said, I don't speak foreign or something. And I think I love Poirot also because I can relate to him in some aspects. Of course, I'm not clever, I'm not a brilliant person or anything, but I totally understand some of his life choices, such as there's Poirot's Christmas.
Poirot, it will be a quiet Christmas, with my radio perhaps, a book, and a box of exquisite Belgian chocolates.
That starts with him buying some fine chocolates and enjoying one of them, like tasting one of them, and saying to the owner of the shop that his plans for Christmas were just to enjoy
A week of the complete peace and repose. The demi-kilo of your chocolates most excellent.
to enjoy the chocolates and be on his own.
Is for Poirot the Christmas parfait.
And that's exactly how I like things. I have my little quirks as well that people probably don't understand. But as an introvert and also a neurodivergent person, I think I can relate to him in these ways. And so whenever people, like the other characters in the movies, would judge him or say, oh, but why don't you join us for this and that? Or Captain Hastings that always suggests some activities like some sports. I really understand when Poirot is just, I don't know, thank you, I can enjoy it from afar, or sitting here and you can just do your thing, I don't know, go hunting or whatever. And he's fully happy with that, so I totally get it. And I don't think it's a weird thing because I am just as he is in that sense. And now I can also relate to the foreign thing, so being the immigrant, trying to understand the local customs and to adjust to them and all of that, but you still remain a foreigner all your life. And this is what happens with Poirot as well. This year there's this tour David Suchet is going on. It's called David Suchet, Poirot and More. It's a retrospective and I really wish I could go and see him on the stage. But yes, I'm trying to give my little homage to my favorite character of all time. Poirot and Hastings and all the others, they are almost real to me because they are so believable and so well portrayed. For instance, to me, Captain Hastings is an exact person in my life, one of my dearest friends. It's just like him, as if my friend were from the 1920s and 30s. And every time I watch one of David Suchet's Poirot movies or episodes, I find a family, you know? It's something that it's missing from all the recent movies and recent TV shows. This kind of attachment that you can have with characters, probably because it's been going on for so long, from 1989 until 2013. You really had your time with the character itself, whereas nowadays you just have one season of something and then Netflix cancels it or something, so you barely know them, you barely meet them. How can you possibly have a proper attachment to them? And so that's why I keep going back to Poirot. It's like a safe haven. And somewhat the same goes for Miss Marple. Probably if they had one actress only for Miss Marple, I might have had the same kind of attachment. Maybe not. So this was my little rant I tried to be as polite as possible with Kenneth Branagh. Simply don't do it. Like, my opinion is, don't watch it. Kenneth Branagh, don't do it. Don't film those movies. Don't make them. Please stop doing that. Please, Kenneth Branagh, do something else. You're good at it. Do something else, please. And all of that nonsense about the moustache and why he keeps these huge things. On top of that, David Suchet's moustache was balanced, especially given the size of the face. The size of the moustache was right, like it was obvious. You could distinguish him from the crowd, okay, but it wasn't ridiculous as Kenneth Branagh's. Like that's a whole thing. Yeah, it really feels like they did poor research and they just tried to make fun of a great character poorly. So I really don't get it. Like, if you liked Kenneth Branagh's portrayal of Poirot, please tell me why, because I don't get it. I'm really sorry. I don't get it. If you agree with me and you love Hercule Poirot by David Suchet, let me know in the comments down below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. By the way, I wrote a book. You can find the links to purchase it down below.